Hey everybody, Doc Watson. Thanks for joining me once again. I've got information here that is going to blow your mind. So let's talk about it. The 4.6 release notes in November covered an awful lot of ADAS dynamic calibrations, had 8 pages of information. But the 4.7 in December had 26 pages. Let's take a look at what all was covered in there. So in the 4.6 update, we talked about some dynamic ADAS that covered Chrysler, Jeep, General Motors, Mazda, and Ford. Now, the 4.6 was a whole new ball game because we brought in information for Kia, BMW Mini, Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo. So I know you're probably asking, what's the big deal, Doc? Who cares? Well, let me tell you, the future is now. What's important is ADAS is part of our society and it's part of the vehicles that we drive as well as the vehicles that we work on daily. So even if you go back to 2015 and 2016 vehicles, they may have some form of ADAS. So yeah, this is really a big deal. Let's talk about it in depth. So do you know what the automotive position statements are? Have you ever heard of them? Well, that's okay if you haven't. So let me talk about it. The automotive position statements are used by the manufacturer to issue documents and statements or their position on a certain subject pertaining to their vehicles. This is big. Pay attention to what I'm telling you. When we talk about their position statements, it's what the OEs want for the repairs on their cars, under warranty and even out of warranty. They talk about things like, using refurbished parts. That's a big deal to them. Are we using what they say or they allow? Because it may have a change in the integrity of their vehicle if you're not following their procedures. So remember, position statements are an important part of the repair process, and you need to take the time and look at the OE's position statements because, again, they highlight specific information and areas as we talked about. It may include pre and post scans or, importantly, latest calibrations for modules in the vehicles. And as I said, recycle parts. But the point here is these position statements, they're important. I know you're going to ask, what is ADAS? Why am I making a big deal of this? Remember, ADAS stands for Advanced Driver Assist Systems. And these assist you in safely driving vehicles and can include safety features such as automatic emergency braking or lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control, and there's more. It goes on and on and on. But there's also SAS. So the steering angle sensor monitors the vehicle's straight ahead position. This sensor is tied to the stability control or the electronic power steering module. And then the next question is, do I need it? Do I need to worry about it? Well, first off, do I need it? Let's look at that statement for a minute. You really don't have a choice. It's up to the OEs or the manufacturers of the vehicles. You could have 2 identical vehicles, one in 2018 and one in 2019. One has ADAS features and one doesn't. And it's not because they were ordered that way. A lot of times it was that the OEs decided they wanted to put it on maybe in that 2019 in that newer vehicle because they found these options mitigate accidents, help avoid accidents. And that's what ADAS is all about. So let's talk about SAS features, electronic stability control. And as I mentioned, the electronic power steering or EPS. That is one thing that's called SAS features, but then there's the full-blown ADAS features, and we just mentioned a few of them. The braking, the active front steering, night vision, might be the rear camera system. But remember, SAS and ADAS are so closely tied together, they're really all one system. when you get to the newer cars. So let's talk about it a little bit more, because this is getting important now. What do all of these have in common? That is, ADAS sensor calibration is required whenever a sensor's aiming can be affected by even general repairs, not just an accident, but general repairs on a vehicle. This can occur in a collision, minor fender bender, or a byproduct of just common service, as I just mentioned. You know, maybe replacement of suspension parts, or I don't know, maybe taking the front fascia off of the vehicle because you had to do some work underneath, pulling the engine out or something, and you had to put it back on, or the camera is back in the exact location. But look at this. It can even be as simple as performing a wheel alignment. So let's think about that for a second. If I do suspension work, and let's say I replace a spring or a strut, is the ride height on that vehicle exactly the same as it was from the factory? Is it a little higher? Is it a little lower? I don't know. You did the wheel alignment, so we know the wheels are straight with the thrust angle of the car, but is the ride height exactly the same? Because remember, where those front cameras are for forward-facing cameras and the radars, right? They're mounted in the front. So if you raise the vehicle, where are the cameras? Pointing up just a little bit. Makes a difference. So even if the vehicle settled a little bit, now they're pointing down. So it does make a difference. When you're doing an alignment, you should have a quality scan tool like ours that can give you the ability to check and see if there's a dynamic calibration available to make sure that everything is correct even after a wheel alignment. I want to talk about the position statement from Nissan. Look at the date on this. This was back in June of 2016. It covered many things. And one of the things is, it's bolded here, it is mandatory for a qualified repair professional to perform the calibration of this system. And what they're talking about is their ADAS system. We're talking about the difference of static and dynamic when it comes to these calibrations. Well, you know that if you're going to do static, you have to have the calibration boards, targets, and the stand. That's a whole different ballgame than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about dynamic, which can be done with a scan tool, plugging in the OBD2 connector, going in and see if the vehicle has the ability to recalibrate the ADAS system using the scan tool and activating it on the car. Since we're talking about the scan tool, let's talk about one more thing that was in those release notes in 4.6. And that was an update to the ADAS calibration menu on the tool. And it's showing, or is updated to show, the high use functions first. That means the forward-facing camera, the forward-facing radar, look at that, they're in dark blue, which means they're available on this car. Now, the ones that are grayed out, those are the static. Those are the ones you need the target boards. So I hope you'll find this information to be worth your time. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon on another video. So make sure you join me. Thanks. See you soon.